I, as the bride, didn't run when I discovered the truth. Minutes before saying I do, I overheard a secret so dark that rewrote my entire life. By the end of the night, the groom himself would still be married, but his money would be frozen, his name would be under investigation, and the murder he thought was buried would be dragged back into the light. This is not a love story. This is my wedding that became a courtroom and a bride who turned betrayal into judgment. Don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel for more revenge videos like this. My name is Elena. I am 26 years old. This is the true life story of my life. People still talk about my wedding in Morro Bay. They remember the ocean that morning, how calm it was, how the sunlight reflected off the glass walls of the glass water pavilion like something out of a magazine. They remember the music, the flowers flown in from Europe, the way my father's hands trembled slightly as he walked me down the aisle. They remember my smile. What they don't know is that by the time I reached the altar, my life had already been split into two permanent halves. Who I was before I learned the truth, and who I became after I decided not to run from it. Morro Bay is the kind of town that hides its secrets behind money and manners. Old families, private docks, last names that matter more than integrity. I grew up there believing that good people were rewarded and that love, if chosen carefully, could protect you. My father raised me to believe in discipline and dignity. My mother, before she died, taught me to read people carefully, even when my heart wanted to believe faster than my mind. Daniel Hawthorne fit perfectly into the story I thought I was living. He was charming in a quiet, intelligent way, an architect celebrated as self-made brilliance. He listened when I spoke. He remembered details. He made me feel chosen. When he proposed, everyone said the same thing. You're so lucky. I believed them. The morning of the wedding was serene. Too serene. Waves brushed the shore gently, as if even the ocean had agreed not to disturb the moment. Guests filled the pavilion, laughing softly, dressed in neutral tones that matched the elegance of the setting. Musicians rehearsed under their breath. Florists made final adjustments. Everything was exactly as it should have been. I stepped away just minutes before the ceremony. I told myself I needed a breath, a moment of quiet, a pause before becoming someone's wife. That pause changed everything. I was standing in a private lounge behind the pavilion when I heard Daniel's voice through the thin partition wall. It wasn't the voice he used with me. It was low, controlled, stripped of warmth. Instinctively, I stopped moving. My hand rested against the door frame, as if my body already knew something my mind wasn't ready to accept. He wasn't talking about wedding nerves. He was confessing. He was speaking to his cousin Marcus's best man, and he was explaining, calmly, that our meeting years ago had not been accidental. That charity gala where we ran into each other, he had orchestrated it. He had researched me, my family, my mother. My heart started pounding, but I couldn't move. Daniel said my mother's death, the one ruled an accident, had created unresolved insurance holdings and offshore accounts that couldn't be accessed until I was legally married. He said he had never intended to fall in love. That marriage was simply the final step. Then he said something that froze my blood completely. He admitted that the accident itself had been engineered. Not meant to kill her, he said. Just scare her. Pressure her into selling controlling interests. But when it went wrong, when she died, he adjusted. Embedded himself into my life. I played a long game. Marcus asked what would happen if I resisted. Daniel answered without hesitation. People break, or they disappear. Every memory I had of him rearranged itself into something unrecognizable. Every smile, every reassurance, every moment I thought intimacy revealed itself as a strategy. I remember the room tilting. My lungs burned. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. I wanted to collapse. Instead, the ceremony music began. My phone vibrated. My aunt asked where I was. Guests waiting. I wiped my tears, straightened my dress. I looked at my reflection. I didn't see a bride anymore. I saw a woman who had just learned she married a stranger long before the vows. So I walked out. I walked toward the aisle with a composure so flawless that my father saw only pride. Daniel waited at the altar, tender expression perfectly rehearsed. When the officiant spoke about truth and loyalty, I listened with a clarity I had never known before. Daniel promised protection. I promised honesty in the light and in the dark. He smiled. He thought he had won. The kiss sealed not love, but access. The reception was a blur of champagne and congratulations. I moved from table to table, accepting smiles while watching Daniel work the room, already discussing future projects, shared signatures, expansions. He was planning his future on top of my silence. I watched who avoided my eyes. I watched who looked uneasy. I danced with Marcus and mentioned insurance audits casually. The color drained from his face. He confirmed everything without saying a word. That night, I didn't confront Daniel. I sent one message to a trusted legal friend. I forwarded recordings my phone had captured earlier, placed accidentally but perfectly. By the time the cake was cut, emergency injunctions were already moving. Daniel kissed me goodnight, believing the worst was behind him. I lay awake beside him, calm, knowing the truth was already in motion. Morning came softly over Marrow Bay. Daniel woke to panic. Accounts frozen, calls unanswered, access denied. I was already dressed. I handed him a tablet and told him to check the news. The headline reopened my mother's case. His name was there. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain gently. I simply told him the truth. The marriage contract contained clauses he never read written by my mother's attorney years ago. Everything he planned to steal was unreachable. By noon, his firm distanced itself. Lenders called in loans. Journalists gathered. His world collapsed with terrifying precision. That evening, I stood at the Glasswater Pavilion and spoke publicly. I didn't dramatize. I didn't cry. I said my marriage was entered under fraud and that I was cooperating fully. When asked if this was revenge, I paused. No, I said. This is accountability. The courtroom came later. The recordings played. The plans were exposed. When Daniel blamed me for trusting him, the room changed. He destroyed himself. The verdict was unanimous. Now, weeks later, I walked the coastline alone. I scattered flowers into the sea where my mother loved to walk. I don't feel rage. I feel clarity. The wedding photos still exist, frozen proof that the greatest revenge I ever executed was not anger or spectacle, but patience. I let him believe he had won long enough to ensure that when he fell, there was no one left to catch him. To every young woman listening to my story, do not rush love. Do not ignore unease. Do not confuse charm with character. Look patiently before you say, I do. The right man will never need deception to choose you. Don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel for more revenge videos like this.